My sister tried to steal my identity, my inheritance, and my husband. Now she's begging for forgiveness. I'm still reeling from everything that's happened in the last year, and I honestly don't even know where to begin. It's a tangled web of deceit, betrayal, and a whole lot of family drama that's left me questioning everything I thought I knew about the people closest to me. So, buckle up, because this is going to be a long one, and I apologize in advance for any rambling or tangents. I just need to get this all out. Let's start with some background. I, 32, female, have an older sister, Sarah, 35, female. Growing up, our relationship was complicated. She was always the golden child in our parents' eyes. Prettier, smarter, more charming, more athletic, you name it, Sarah was supposedly better at it. I, on the other hand, was the quiet, artistic one, often overlooked or compared unfavorably to her. This created a deep-seated insecurity in me and a subtle, yet persistent, rivalry between us. Sarah, to her credit, was often kind to me, but there was always an undercurrent of superiority in her kindness, a subtle condescension that chafed at my younger self. Our parents, bless their hearts, never seemed to notice the dynamic they fostered. They just saw two daughters, one of whom was effortlessly brilliant and the other who needed a little more encouragement. Fast forward to adulthood. Sarah went to an Ivy League school, got a high-powered job, and married a seemingly perfect man, Mark, who came from a wealthy family. They had two beautiful children and lived in a sprawling house in the suburbs. She truly had it all, or so it appeared from the outside. I, after a few false starts and a stint in art school, found my passion in graphic design. I worked hard, built a decent freelance career, and eventually met my wonderful husband, David, 33, male. David is everything I ever wanted: kind, supportive, hilarious, and he sees me for who I am, flaws and all. We have a modest but comfortable life, and for the first time, I felt truly happy and secure, even in Sarah's shadow. Our relationship, while not as grand as Sarah's, felt real and grounded. David and I were, and still are, deeply in love, and we always prided ourselves on our honest and open communication. The first crack in the facade of our seemingly stable family dynamic appeared about a year and a half ago. Our grandmother, my mother's mother, passed away. She was a truly incredible woman, and her loss hit me hard. She was always my biggest supporter, the one who encouraged my art and made me feel seen. A few months after her passing, her will was read. To everyone's surprise, she had left me a substantial inheritance, not a life-changing amount, but enough to put a down payment on a small house or invest for our future. She had specifically stated in her will that the money was for me to pursue my artistic endeavors or to secure a comfortable life, whatever I chose. My parents, who were financially comfortable themselves, seemed a little surprised but accepted it. Sarah, however, was visibly put out. She made a few snide remarks about Grandma's favorites and how I was always so lucky. I brushed it off, attributing it to her grief and perhaps a touch of old sibling rivalry. This is where things started to get weird, in retrospect. Around the same time, Sarah began expressing a lot of interest in my finances. She'd casually ask about my freelance income, how much I was making, and what I planned to do with the inheritance. At first, I was open about it. She was my sister, after all. I told her I was thinking of investing some of it and putting the rest towards a down payment on a small studio space where I could work and teach workshops. She'd nod, offer generic advice, and then change the subject. Looking back, it was all part of a much larger, more sinister plan. Then came the identity theft. It started subtly. I began receiving marketing emails for products I hadn't signed up for, and a few minor charges appeared on one of my credit cards that I didn't recognize. I chalked it up to online scams or a data breach. But then, it escalated. A utility company contacted me about an unpaid bill for an apartment I didn't rent. My bank flagged suspicious activity on my accounts. It was a nightmare. I spent weeks on the phone, filing reports, freezing accounts, and trying to untangle the mess. The police were involved, and they suggested it might be someone I knew, given the specific nature of the fraudulent activities. They said it often happens with family members who have access to personal information. The thought of it being Sarah, my own sister, was sickening, and I immediately pushed it out of my mind. It couldn't be her. She had a perfect life, a wealthy husband, no reason to do something like that. Right. While all this was happening, my relationship with David was going through a wonderful phase. We had decided to start trying for a baby. We were so excited, talking about names, decorating a nursery, and just generally dreaming of our future as parents. Sarah seemed genuinely happy for us, or at least she pretended to be. She'd offer advice, share stories about her own pregnancies, and even offered to help us get some baby gear. I was touched by her apparent support, thinking maybe our relationship was finally maturing into something genuinely loving and supportive. I was so incredibly naive. The true unraveling began a few months later, shortly after David and I found out we were pregnant. We were over the moon. We planned a small dinner with our immediate families to share the news. My parents, Sarah, and Mark were there. The dinner started out lovely. We announced our pregnancy, and everyone seemed thrilled. My mother cried tears of joy, and my father beamed. Sarah even hugged me, albeit a bit stiffly. But then, as the evening progressed, Sarah started acting strangely. She kept excusing herself to go to the bathroom, and each time she returned, she seemed more agitated, her eyes darting around the room. I noticed her phone was constantly in her hand, and she was subtly tapping away at it under the table. I didn't think much of it at the time, assuming she was just busy with work or her children. IT all blew up the next morning. I woke up to an absolute firestorm. My phone was buzzing non-stop with texts, calls, and social media notifications. Friends, distant relatives, even old acquaintances were reaching out. The messages were a mix of congratulations and utter confusion, some expressing concern, others outright disgust. I finally opened Facebook, and there it was, a public post from Sarah. It was a long, rambling screed, accusing David of being a manipulative gold digger who was only with me for my grandmother's inheritance. She claimed he had pressured me into getting pregnant to trap me, and that he was secretly funneling my money into his own accounts. She had even attached screenshots of what looked like bank statements, doctored to show large transfers from my account to David's, along with fabricated text messages supposedly between David and a mystery woman discussing his scheme. The post was an absolute character assassination, meticulously crafted to destroy David's reputation and our relationship. I felt like the air had been sucked out of my lungs. My heart pounded in my chest. I couldn't breathe. I showed David, and his face went white with shock and disbelief. He was devastated. He loved me, truly loved me, and the idea that his own sister-in-law would accuse him of such heinous things was incomprehensible. We immediately knew it was Sarah. The specificity of the accusations, the timing, the doctored evidence, it all pointed to her. The screenshots of the bank statements had to have come from the identity theft. She had been digging through my finances, fabricating evidence, and waiting for the perfect moment to strike. And she chose our pregnancy announcement, when we were at our most vulnerable and joyful, to unleash her malice. We contacted a lawyer immediately. The lawyer confirmed that the screenshots were clearly manipulated, and the text messages were completely fabricated. This wasn't just online drama. It was defamation, slander, and a continuation of the identity theft. We gathered all the evidence we had, the police reports from the identity theft, the financial discrepancies, and now Sarah's malicious online post. The confrontation with Sarah was brutal. We called a family meeting, with my parents present. When we presented the evidence, Sarah initially tried to deny everything, claiming her account had been hacked. But as we laid out the facts, the lies began to crumble. David, his voice shaking with anger, confronted her about the accusations against him. My parents, who were initially trying to mediate, slowly started to grasp the gravity of the situation. The realization that their golden child was capable of such venomous acts hit them hard. Finally, under the weight of irrefutable evidence and the sheer disgust in my parents' eyes, Sarah broke down. She confessed. The reason? A twisted mix of jealousy and a desperate need to maintain her perfect image. She admitted she had been struggling financially for a while. Mark, her seemingly perfect husband, had been secretly gambling away their money and was deeply in debt. Sarah was terrified of losing her lifestyle, her perfect house, her perfect family. She saw my inheritance as a solution, a way to alleviate her own financial woes without Mark finding out. She had planned to slowly siphon off my funds, hoping I wouldn't notice, and when I started to investigate the identity theft, she panicked. Then, when David and I announced our pregnancy, she saw it as me getting everything, while her own life was secretly falling apart. She concocted the plan to destroy our relationship, hoping I would be too devastated to fight back, and she could somehow gain control of my finances, perhaps even convincing me to lend her the money. It was a desperate, evil scheme born of desperation and a lifetime of perceived entitlement. My parents were utterly shattered. Their golden child, the one they had always championed, was a con artist and a cyberbully. They struggled to reconcile the image of their perfect daughter with the manipulative, deceitful person standing before them. They tried to appeal to my sense of family, asking me to drop the legal action, to forgive her. But I couldn't. Not after everything. Not after she tried to destroy my life, my husband's reputation, and threaten the security of our unborn child. David, incredibly, was the more measured one in the aftermath. He was hurt, deeply so, but his focus was on protecting me and our baby. He insisted we proceed with the legal action, not out of revenge, but out of a need for justice and to ensure Sarah couldn't hurt us again. Our lawyer advised us that due to the seriousness of the identity theft and defamation, we had a very strong case. The fallout was immense. Sarah lost her job. Mark, upon discovering the full extent of her deception and financial recklessness, and realizing she had been planning to use my money to cover his gambling debts, filed for divorce. Her carefully constructed, perfect life imploded. My parents, after initial resistance, eventually came around to supporting us. It was a slow process, filled with difficult conversations and a lot of tears, but they finally saw the truth of Sarah's actions and the depth of her betrayal. They now acknowledge the unhealthy dynamic they fostered when we were growing up and are genuinely trying to make amends. Sarah, now facing the full consequences of her actions, is completely broken. She lost everything. She's currently living with a distant relative and working a low-paying job. She's been sending me increasingly desperate messages, begging for forgiveness, pleading with me to drop the legal charges, claiming she's a changed woman. She says she's enrolled in therapy and is trying to rebuild her life. She even sent me a long, tearful letter apologizing to David, acknowledging the immense pain she caused on a part of me, the part that still remembers the little sister who sometimes played with her, who shared secrets and dreams, feels a pang of pity. But the larger part, the part that remembers the months of fear and confusion from the identity theft, the agonizing pain of her public accusations, and the sheer audacity of her attempt to destroy my family, remains firm. My lawyer is confident we will win the case, and I'm determined to see it through. The police investigation into the identity theft is ongoing, and she could face criminal charges as well that I'm due in a few months, and David and I are trying to focus on our future, on the beautiful life we are building together. We've moved into a new home, a small but charming place that feels safe and our own. We are surrounded by supportive friends and family, the ones who truly matter. But the scars of Sarah's betrayal run deep. I don't know if I'll ever be able to fully trust her again, or if our relationship can ever be salvaged. My parents are pushing for reconciliation, saying family is family, but I just don't know. The thought of letting her back into our lives, especially with a baby on the way, fills me with anxiety. I worry about the precedent it would set, about the message it would send to our child. I guess I'm writing this because I need some outside perspective. Am I being too harsh? Should I try to forgive her, for the sake of my parents, for the sake of the family? Or am I right to protect myself and my new family from someone who has proven herself to be so fundamentally untrustworthy and malicious? How do you forgive someone who tried to steal your identity, your inheritance, and your husband? It feels like an impossible question to answer, and I'm truly at a loss. Any advice or shared experiences would be greatly appreciated.